Environmental engineering! A day in the life of an environmental engineer.
Environmental engineers develop ways to solve problems in the environment. They make sure that things like buildings, water, soil, and construction projects are up to their regulated standards. The engineers do this by testing. For example, they can test soils and rock samples. This job can also help people clean up or bring their environment up to its standards, for example, cleaning up hazardous waste sites. They may study and attempt to minimize the effects of large-scale problems such as acid rain, global warming, and ozone depletion. However, most work inside a majority of the time. Environmental engineers whose tasks require site visits for purposes such as collecting samples, checking quality control, and investigating sites for possible contamination spend at least part of their time away from the office.
My sister and her friend are some of the few environmental engineers whose tasks require site visits. I interviewed my sister, Lina, and her friend Anique, who have both graduated from Northeastern University with bachelor's and master's degrees in environmental engineering and civil engineering. Where do they work?
I work at Haley Aldrich in Charlestown.
VHB Engineering.
What do they do at their job? What do they earn?
So I've yet to start my job, but what I'll be doing, I'll be working with the Water Resource Department, and they focus on flood mitigation for large projects. So federal highways, large developments, we have to make sure that they have the proper infrastructure to fully drain all the water that's would be flooding that area. Also have to make sure that all the water that's entering our drainage is properly treated, so we don't want like gasolines or other pollutants entering something that'll be a wetland or that kind of thing. So anything like that, we need to make sure enters the correct area to be treated, a place like Deer Island, and allow for everything else to get back into the environment the way it should.
Interesting. What do you do at your job / what's like a normal day?
Okay, so I do a lot of different things. So probably like 15% of my time is spent in the field, which means I go to different job sites. And so for background, my company does a lot of geotechnical foundation design. And so they're geotechnical engineers. But as an environmental consultant for my firm, we actually test the soil that they want to build buildings on for environmental contaminants. And then when the lab results come back, we actually look at different regulations and see which landfills that these soils can be sent to, because basically Boston soil is all urban fill, which is super contaminated. Like it was filled with like trash basically. So like sometimes it contains like arsenic and chromium, and other times it's like clean. So we, as an environmental engineer, we make sure that the soil like goes and is basically landfilled at the right place. So I do a lot of paperwork, a lot of writing, a lot of reports.
Cool. What do you earn?
Okay, so as coming straight out of college, entry-level environmental engineer, I'm going to be making $56,700.
So I was super nervous, and I thought I was going to get an offer from somewhere else. This position offered me $58,700 a year for a starting salary, and I couldn't decide. And I had an advisor who went back and said, okay, if money is a factor, go back and ask for more. I didn't think I would ever be able to do it, and I went back and asked for $60,000, and they gave it to me.
Why do they think that environmental engineering is a good job? / do they actually think it benefits the environment?
For water resource engineering, very specifically with everything freaking out about climate change, the job market's exploding. So because I'm lucky and I do enjoy what I do, obviously it's fun. But with the new obstacles that we're going to encounter with all this extra water that's happening, there's a lot to do, and a lot of our stuff is going to need to change and be reinforced.
Like, we're the only ones who help the environment.
Do you think environmental engineering is a good job, and do you think it actually benefits the environment?
Yeah, and actually there's a huge job market. So like the Clean Air, Clean Water Act, probably Clean Water Act, basically all the environmental laws are enacted in 1970, which is relatively recently. They're still, right? Yeah, okay, stop. So basically like we're still unearthing like what I said in Boston's like urban fill that was just basically placed with anything. Like there was no thought that went into what contaminants are going in the soil. So there's a huge job market. There's always contaminated places being found. So it's basically our job to clean up sites that are going to affect human beings. Like if there's a building going up, you have to like clean out all of the soil underneath, and like in Anik's case, like you have to make sure that any water being drained is properly treated. Basically, like as an environmental civil engineer, like your duty is to the public. Make sure that anything that we construct for the public is safe and healthy for the environment and the public. So it's a necessary job. Like if we didn't do it, then we would just, there were no, like regulations wouldn't be enforced basically.